Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the One Thing podcast. We're here today with Matt Diamante, who is a marketing expert who I personally am so excited to learn from. And he has specifically dedicated his company to empowering entrepreneurs and small businesses. You've got a passion, Matt, for demystifying marketing, which I think it takes a lot of demystification because it means a lot of things to a lot of people. And you specialize in creating accessible and actionable social media content that helps businesses grow and thrive. Welcome, Matt. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
So, Matt, you founded a company called Hey Tony, and a lot of this company was founded and rather, I should say, maybe grown on one thing principles. And so I'd love for you to tell the story of like how we got connected and how you've grown this incredible company before I actually dive into you actually demystifying these secrets, which I am very excited about.
Yeah. So the first thing I'm going to say is I run a digital marketing agency called Hey Tony, as you mentioned. And until 2023, like June 2023, so about a year ago, as of now, I was a referral only business. And when you're a referral only business, you have really high highs and really low lows because you don't know it, like if a client leaves for whatever reason or if 5 clients leave, you're like, oh, well, I don't have anything to replace that income. I have no way of getting that money. And in January 2023, I was like, I need to do something to change my business. And I had just read The One Thing, as well as a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook by Gary Vaynerchuk. And those two books together, I was like, oh, I can do one thing every single day and work on my business and really change it. And that one thing for me was posting social media content,
Wow.
videos of my, like, if anybody's watching this, I don't know if you can watch this or not, but if people are watching this, it's like legit this exact same background and framing is all my videos for the most part. And it's just talking about how to show up higher on Google, how to do your own digital marketing. Um, I've worked with a lot of businesses in my life who they're like, oh, we hired this agency, they were doing this stuff, but they wouldn't tell us exactly what they were doing. They said it was their secret sauce. And I was like, screw that. There's no more secret sauce. Like, here's the, 11 herbs and spices. Here's exactly what they are and, the quantities. And yeah, that was the basis on my whole platform, of my whole thing.
I love that, Matt. And I always feel like the companies that say we won't tell the secret sauce or we won't share the full detail of the plan, to me, it's always a red flag that there actually probably isn't one.
Yeah, and it's oh my god, this industry is just everybody's gatekeeping, and it's like behind this like secret veil or this curtain, and you're just like, man, just pull it back and show them that you don't actually know anything. You're not actually doing anything, or you are doing something. Just tell people what they're doing.
Well, and I think it's such an indicator of how well someone does actually know something to be able to explain it in a way that people understand. Because I do think that there's a lot of mystification around showing up higher on SEO, building online presence, especially for companies who've been in the game for a long time. I think when you have a founder who's maybe on the younger side or who has grown up in this world, that might feel a little bit like second nature to them,
Yeah.
right? And yet companies that have been around but are now trying to create a digital presence, I have to imagine it feels a bit like a foreign language to them.
Absolutely. I was speaking with or doing an interview with Marcus Sheridan, who wrote a book called They Ask You Answer. I don't know if I can plug other books, but I read a lot of books, so I'm going to
Totally.
talk about
Yeah.
them.
Of course you can.
So I
We
was speaking
recognize
with
it the
him.
one thing that there is more than one book out there.
Yeah. So I was speaking with him and he said, it's dumb not to dumb things down. And I
Mhm.
was like, what? I've never heard it put that way. And like my entire job, so search engine optimization, basically helping people show up higher on Google, the main point of, or the main thing that I try to communicate is if nobody can understand what you're writing about, like make it so easy to understand, like a 12-year-old could understand it. Like use basic terms, don't use industry jargon. Like if you can, I mean, you can, but like put that in brackets or something like that. So people start to learn what those words mean, but use simple terms. And the wider you, or the easier things are to understand, the wider you're casting your net and the more customers you'll actually get.
Yes, I think we see this in so many industries. I mean, I'm very close to the real estate industry, and a lot of us at the One Thing are. But I see this also in like the financial industry, in your
Yeah.
industry, where people just use this jargon that's nonsensical to the person who's on the other
Yeah.
side. And to me, it actually does the opposite of what you think it does. I think a lot of people think it shows how knowledgeable you are or shows how professional you are. And to me, when somebody does that to me, it just creates distrust. Like, I'll give a great example. I had to get something fixed in my car,
Hmm.
and I don't know anything about cars. Ironic, because my dad is a mechanic and owns a mechanic shop. But like, they called
You never
me.
had to.
Exactly. I have someone who knows these things, but they called me and they were like, this whatever thing is broken. I was like, okay, well, what does that mean? What happens if I don't fix it? How much is it?
Yeah.
And I just had this list of questions, and they were speaking to me in a way that I just completely didn't understand. And then I called my dad and said, what does all of this mean? And he was able to explain it in a way I could absorb. But it was frustrating for me, and it created a sense of distrust, because I was like, well, you're saying all these things in a way that I can't understand and don't know whether I should behave on, or don't know whether I
Yeah.
should take action on. And now I'm just feeling distrustful. Do you see that in your industry?
Yeah, all the time. Sorry, what you were just saying reminds me of the Friends episode with the plane. There's no phalange on the plane. Did you see that?
I
And people are like, "There's
didn't.
no phalange on this thing," and it's just like a made up thing that like nobody really understands. But like when it comes to marketing and SEO, people are like, "Oh, it's about conversion or CRO, conversion rate optimization." And all this kind of stuff, and that's just a fancy way of saying we're going to A/B test, or we're going to like even A/B test. Like even me saying that, like some people don't know what that means. So it's we're going to try two different things, and we're going to see what performs best. So a lot of the times, marketers, we don't actually know what's going to work. We just guess, right? We have more educated guesses, I'll say, but it's like we're going to do these things and we're going to test them against each other, and the winner, we're just going to iterate on that. We're going to do variations of that thing that won, right? Whether it's a Facebook ad, whether it's a piece of content on your website, so like a blog post, whether it's a video on social media. Like the amount of iterations I've done on social media content just to come up with like what I think works, and
Yeah.
sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's crazy. I think
Yeah.
like since January 2023, so what's that, 18 months ago, I've posted like 800 plus videos on Instagram, and obviously not I'm saying obviously also reposted those on TikTok and YouTube Shorts and Facebook Reels and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like iteration, iteration, iteration. And I do want to talk more about my like one thing journey, but I'll get there eventually. So I'll hand it back off to you at this point.
Well, I think that this is a really important subject, Matt. And I have said in the past, I'm in our company, we have, people who specifically run marketing, and in my world, I have people who run specific marketing for the company. And I think where people who do something like marketing have a bit of a leg up. Or I even see this. I have friends who are scientists, and I actually learned this from Adam Grant, who said, he gave me a lot of perspective around, in business, when we try something and it doesn't work, we feel like a failure, right? Whereas in your example, you sort of have a leg up, because you probably have this perspective from marketing where it's like, I'm just going to try it and see if it works.
Yeah.
And I think so many people get stalled in business and get stalled in growth because something doesn't work. And then they feel like they failed, and they feel like it's a life sentence. And I always take what Adam Grant said to me, which was, hey, that your hypothesis was just wrong. Like, that's literally
Yeah.
all that happened. Your hypothesis was just wrong. And
I
I
love
don't, it
that.
probably sounds so simple and stupid, but it was such a light bulb for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, my hypothesis was wrong.
Yeah.
And
You
I
tested
remember
it.
exactly. I remember saying this to one of my friends who's a scientist, and he looked at me like I was crazy. He was like, yeah, that's literally what I do all day. But if you
Yeah.
don't have that perspective, then it can feel like like I said, like it's a life sentence. And I see that come up a lot in business. Do you feel like that's helped you on your journey?
Oh, 100%. So when I did read the one thing and jab, 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 right hook, my one thing that I was doing every day, by the way, was going to post one video on Instagram and TikTok and all the platforms every single day for a year. I'm like, I'm going to do this for a year, and I'm going to prove these guys wrong. Like, this doesn't work. There's no way that this works. And I was like, on the other side, like if I prove them right, that would also be awesome. So I kind of had two hypotheses that I was
Oh, that's the question. Now we got to test
yeah,
that
yeah,
hypothesize.
hypothesize.
Let's throw it
I was
all
like,
out there. One of those
I'm
is
testing
correct.
this. Yeah. So I'm like, listen, I have two outcomes. I'm going to do this every single day. I'm going to spend time. And I did end up spending like 4 hours a day creating these videos. And about 3 months in, I went from posting one video a day to three videos a day,
Holy
like three
moly.
unique pieces of content. And it like at first when I was doing one video a day, I was like, this is impossible. There's no way anybody is able to do this, because a lot of these social media creators, gurus, whatever you want to say, is like post every single day, and your content will get better and you'll get more followers and this and this and this. So like 3 months in, I'm like 3 videos a day. I'm gonna like put this hypothesis on steroids,
Yeah.
right? I like this has to work, or it doesn't, or it's not going to work. But nobody can say that I didn't put everything I had into this. And about 3 months in, that's when I started posting 3 times a day. 6 months in, I had 1,500 followers, so I didn't really grow all that much for the, I think, 300 or 400 videos I had posted until then. And then the first week of June 2023, I had a video get like 1 million views in a week. And then the next week, I had another video get 1 million views. And I'm like, oh my God, what happened here? Like, I'm doing this like that. I'm doing my one thing every single day. And I guess I'm learning how to do that better. And then from there, sorry, I need to go back and just say, while all this was happening, I was losing like 10 grand a month to keep my agency afloat, because I had just let go of our biggest client, who was like $250,000 a year. Um, yeah, so I was losing money. This, which is also why I had so much time during the day. I was like, this has to work, or I'm going to go get a job at like McDonald's or something. Like, I have to figure this out. And yeah, so by the end of 2023, I had like 100,000 followers on Instagram and like 20,000 followers on TikTok, kind of thing. And my inbox, like my email inbox, was flooded with people saying, "Hey, can I hire you to do this?" And I never mentioned that, hey, we're taking on clients, we're doing it, like, didn't mention anything like that. It's just like, help, 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 help. And now we have like 40 clients that we're servicing on a monthly basis, doing SEO for them. And like, it could be more, but as a business owner, you have to make a choice. Like, do you want to scale your business infinitely, and like potentially lose quality? Or do you want to, have a smaller shop and just kind of maintain, and you still make money, like still do a great job, but like, you have to make those choices. And I still don't know what I want to do in life and with my business. Still trying to figure it out, but this is working right now and I like it.
What? Okay. We're
I
gonna go
just said
back.
a lot.
Yeah,
I
you
said a
did.
lot.
There's
Yeah.
a lot to unpack here. Okay, I'm gonna ask the question that I know a lot of our people are gonna want to know the answer to.
Yeah.
And selfishly, I want to know the answer to, because
Yep.
we all know how important social media is. I
Yeah.
always say it's the devil that you got to play with. Like, I don't
Yep.
care what business you're running, you have to have a presence on there. And however you want to create and drive through that presence is up to you. But I always look at it's a platform that's completely free, where you can reach hundreds of millions, if not billions of people. Why
Yeah.
not? And yet, I think a lot of people get stuck in it seems like this big esoteric, and how do I master the algorithm, and what do I say?
Hmm.
And I hear a video a day, and in my head, I already have my head going like, oh my gosh, I could never, I don't have the time. What would I say?
Yeah.
And so I need to know one, did you have that limiting belief, and how'd you work through it? And two, literally, how are you coming up with content for every single day? What are we even talking about?
Yeah. So the first thing was, I was spending 4 hours a day on this, and like I would literally, and none of this is like crazy production, by the way. It's like my cell phone's front facing camera, like I'm not putting it backwards. Um, and I would just sit there in the room and be like in the room that I'm in right now, and like, you need to talk about something today. What are you going to talk about? And so, like, sometimes something came up in my business where I'm like, oh, that's a really cool strategy or technique that I can talk about. Other times it was like I saw a creator talking about something who did digital marketing, and I'm like, oh, that's a really cool topic. I can put my own spin on that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's some of it's watching other people's content, and then getting ideas that way. Some of it's just like from my business. Some of it I'm just like, what should I do today? I need to do I did a video last week on this, or yesterday, or the last 5 days on this topic, and like, what's a follow up topic that people would actually really like? I didn't bulk batch my stuff. Like, I didn't film a bunch of stuff in one day or script it or anything like that. I literally do it every single day so that I develop that habit. And now for me to think of an idea, like I could give you a hook in no time, right? And if anybody listening, a hook is like the first 3 seconds of a video that gets you engaged to continue watching the video, to make you want to continue watching the video. So yeah, just like it's the habit. Making it a habit is, I think, the biggest thing somebody can do with achieving their one thing.
And I think what's so important about this, Matt, is that sometimes our one thing doesn't necessarily feel intuitive to the greater goal that we have, right?
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is if somebody had said, how do I create a huge creative digital agency? They might not have said, well, the first thing you do is go film a video every day for social media. So how
Yeah.
did you pick that one thing? How did you decide that that was going to be the thing that you did every day?
So the funniest part of this is when I originally started working in advertising, I was working in social media at a couple big agencies, and I actually left the industry because of how much I hated it and like I like to say I did well in terms of the content I was creating, but I was like, this is like such a drain on my soul. It's just terrible.
Yeah,
So I
it's a
like
job.
I retired from posting on social media even personally until like 18 months ago. Like, didn't have an Instagram account, didn't even go, like, I didn't even know what was going on Instagram. I thought IGTV was still a thing, which that went away a long time ago. So if anybody's listening and you're like, oh, I don't know anything about social media, like, I actually didn't know anything about social media in terms of organic content, and I had to learn it over the last year. So the reason why I chose this as my one thing was partially because I read, like I was saying earlier, Jab, 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 Right Hook, where Gary talks about this is the greatest time to be a business owner because you have all these free ways to advertise your business. And he's very much all social media, not necessarily SEO. And I'm like, this is the same thing that I'm like selling my clients. I'm like, it's free to rank on Google, like all that kind of stuff. Um, and I was like, I can create content every single day. Like, it's there. I might as well try and see if that works. And I did a post recently where I'm like, I've been in front of the camera or like editing videos for over a decade at this point. When I lived in Toronto, and I'm saying Toronto like CHRONTO, Toronto. People from there don't say Toronto. It's a really weird thing. I don't know why, but anyways, I'm digressing. When I lived there, I lived downtown, and I would go to like the busiest corners and do like street interviews, which nobody can find online. I've taken them all down. They were terrible, but I got really good experience being on camera, and not that I was good. I got experience. It wasn't good experience, but it was experience. And I've always just kind of had, I don't know, that idea. It was just kind of fell together, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
It sounds like it. I always say that it's funny how the things fall together. I'm giving bunny ears for those
Yeah.
who are not watching on YouTube and are just listening. They quote unquote fall together, and falling together usually looks like a lot of hard work and a lot of challenge and a lot of time spent, right? And then all of a sudden, what we always say in the one thing is that it often feels like slowly and then all at once, right?
Yeah.
Slowly I'm doing the activity, slowly I'm doing the thing, and then all at once it all hits, and we're like, oh yeah, it all just
Hmm.
came together. But it never feels like that in the moments that it's coming together.
Yeah. Oh my god. Like, I just had flashbacks to where I like severely underquoted doing a website for somebody, and I worked on it for like a year for like $1,500. Like, it was like
Oh
nothing.
gosh.
But I was like, I can't go back. I have to have integrity, and like, I'm just going to do this project. And I really had nothing else going on at the time because I was a freelancer back then. And yeah, just the stuff I learned doing that free project like has helped me like leaps and bounds with clients now. Like, it's insane.
I think anyone who has built, run, started, been in their own business or been in the early days of any business has a story like that. Like, yeah, I really should have charged a lot more for this. But at the
Yeah.
beginning, you're sort of just excited to be there. Like, you're sort of just excited that somebody said yes and signed on the
Yeah.
dotted line. And you're trying to over deliver, which is what you should do. You should always do that, whether you're at the beginning or at the end.
100%.
But that said, I think we all have a story of severely undervaluing our services and having to fulfill on the promise anyway.
Yep.
I certainly have many of those myself. I want to go back to something that you said earlier, which is you started with one video pretty
Yep.
consistently, and you were consistently putting out one video, one video, one video, and that got you up to 1,500 followers. Now, a lot of
No,
people,
that didn't even get me to 1,500
that didn't
followers.
even get you to 1,500 followers.
No.
And I love this though, Matt. You were like, you know what I'm going to do? A lot of people would have done that for as long as you did it and would have been like, I'm not going to do this anymore. Screw this. Doesn't work. Like, I'm going to go on to something else. Let me try something else. But not Matt. Matt, you were like, I'm going to double down And this
Yeah.
thing that I'm doing once a day isn't working. So now I'm going to do it 3 times a day. How did you get there? How did you decide to go that direction as opposed to like quitting and starting something else?
So I kept like I read a lot of books and watch a lot of like inspirational stuff on Instagram or TikTok or whatever. And I kept seeing people saying you need to take more swing, not like to me, just in general, like take more swings, post more. The more you post, the more data you'll have, the better you'll get, the quicker you'll learn. And I was like, I just need to take more swings. And again, I sound like a Gary V like fanboy at this point. I think it was him who said this, like when like an MLB player is like knocking him out of the park, how many times did they swing at a ball and miss like in their life or, hit it to first base and, they had to learn how to hit it out of the park. They had to learn how to hit those home runs. Right. And I'm like, I need to learn how to hit the home run. So I need to take more swings, create more content and really look at what I was doing and analyze, like quote unquote, like analyze my swing to see how I could hit it out of the park more often or at all.
I'd love for you to give some perspective around. I think a lot of people try to create the perfect video or put out the perfect content, or they try to build the right strategy for what works. Do you think that's even possible, or is it always sort of retroactive? Do you just have to put out enough content to figure out what your people like?
I think that's part of it. It's putting out enough content, but like you also have to put out content that you like.
Mm.
I have a friend who's a very talented singer-songwriter, and I'm like, you just got to post on social media. He's like, I hate all the stuff that people post about like the singer-songwriters and like the band. He's like, I don't want to do that's not me. And you need to find a way to do that for yourself. But for me, I'm just like, I can talk. Like, I can show up in front of the camera,
Yeah.
and I'm so sorry, I'm, like, completely, like I don't know if it's ADHD, but, like, I have no idea where I'm going with all of this, and if you can cut this out, great, if not, this is a lesson to everybody that, it's okay to have something in your mind, I don't know.
well, well, I'm not going to cut it out for that exact reason. That I think like what I'm hearing from you is that a lot of times you're just getting on the screen and talking. And I found that
Yep,
when you do that for long enough, when you really know what you're doing, some brilliance can come out. Like it doesn't always have to be scripted. I think I see people, Jay Papasan, the co-author of the book, and I do a lot of keynoting. And
yep,
probably the number one question we get asked after we do a keynote or after we've trained, whether it's separately together, what doesn't matter, people come up to us and they're like, how do you like memorize all this stuff? I'm like, we don't
yeah,
memorize it all. And even when we do, even the moments that I have memorized it, I remember the best speaking advice I ever got. I got off a stage once and I was totally beating myself up. Somebody was like, oh, what'd you think of that? And I was like, oh, this was terrible. I hated it. I missed a whole section of what I was going to talk about. And they were like, well, the audience loved it and nobody knew.
yeah.
Like nobody literally knew what you were trying to say because they didn't
Yeah,
have the script that you wrote. And so I think that's an important lesson too. Like your audience, your customer doesn't have an idea of how you wanted this to go in your head or how you thought it
yeah.
was supposed to go. So it's okay to build the parachute on the way down. It's okay to figure it out as you go.
Yeah, and like even with my marketing that I do and like with our clients, we are constantly testing. Like that's just it. We don't know what's going to work. We don't necessarily have a plan. I mean, the plan is to get obviously more traffic from Google to their websites, and we have a strategy that we follow. But there's no like do this, then do this, then do this, then do this. I was talking to a friend the other day, and he's like, "Oh, I'm planning on doing this with my business, and this, and this, and this, and we're in the planning phases, planning phases, planning phases." And I'm like, just do it. Just like launch the first thing. Um, so I'll give you a really good example. I recently launched a community, like an SEO community, so people who are small business owners can learn how to do SEO themselves, and they have support from me and my team, and other people in the community. Um, and I got the advice to do a founding members launch. Basically, make a video and just be like, here's what I want to do. Here's what I'm kind of thinking. I haven't built anything yet. If you're interested in this, send me an email. And I did that video, and I had like 150 or 200 people reach out and sign up and pay me money monthly for something that didn't exist yet
Yeah.
on the basis that they were going to help me figure out what was best for them. And I would never have thought of doing that because I kept for months, I was like, I need to do a community of some sort. I want to help people on like a deeper level. And I was just planning, 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 planning. And then this guy was like, just do a founding members launch. And I was like, what is that? That sounds risky. He's like, you haven't done anything for like 3 months. You might as well try it. And it worked out.
I think
It's
this is
crazy.
so important for those listening who are in early stages of building their business, or maybe early stages of building out an initiative within a company. I always say you find the right path forward by implementing the imperfect plan. It is absolutely
Yeah.
impossible for you to know the right thing to do when you're as far away from it as you are at the beginning. And I always laugh. I'm sure you see this with the companies even that you work with, but I see it in so many aspiring entrepreneurs or early entrepreneurs that I talk to who are like, well, say they're building a financial institution and they're like, I don't know, I can't possibly build this financial institution because I don't know how to manage $10 billion. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
you have $0 to manage right now. So why don't you learn
Yeah.
how to manage $100 and then
Yeah.
$100,000 and then $1 million, and then you'll learn how to eventually manage that number. Don't not
Yeah.
do it because you don't know how to do that. And I think that so many people don't start because they don't know the right thing to do. And this is a great example of I started and then I learned the right thing to do by listening, by paying attention, and then I figured out how to deliver on it, which every great entrepreneur does.
Yeah. I would say like your advice is completely sound unless you're a doctor or a lawyer or
Yes.
somebody investing people's money, or an engineer. Like, don't take a chance on that skyscraper. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
let's just double check the
Yes.
math on
Let's
that. But
actually know the plan for that one.
yeah.
Add also in there those that are like setting off rockets and stuff like that. Like, please, yes,
Yeah.
please figure out the finish line.
Absolutely. But most business owners, especially when it comes to digital marketing, like you can change everything after
Yeah.
you've posted it. If you posted a video and you're like, "Oh, I said the wrong thing or I didn't edit it well," take it down, edit it, re-edit it, put it back up. If you write a blog post and there's a typo in it, you can go in, it's not print, you can still go in, fix that thing and just keep trying, keep iterating on that idea.
Do you have any examples of like any videos that you did or blogs that you might have done, anything that you've sent out where you were like, this is terrible, or I made a big mistake and it ended up actually being a huge success?
I mean, if you go, I don't know if anything's been like a huge success that I thought was a mistake. I'd have to have a think on that. Maybe I'll come back to that later in this conversation. But if anybody listening scrolls down on my Instagram to the very first video, so we're talking 18 months ago, very first video, it's literally me. My wife is filming me. I'm sitting on the toilet, like fully clothed. And it's me
I
saying,
was like,
when you
this isn't
get
that
an
kind of
idea,
podcast,
yeah,
Matt.
no, 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 no. I know. Yeah, you're like, where's he going with this? So fully clothed, and I start talking to him like today is the day to start making content. Like I don't care what you're doing, just like pull out your phone and start recording. And it was kind of a message to myself
I love that.
to just start creating. And it doesn't have to be good, doesn't have to be polished, doesn't have to be funny or witty or this or that. Like it just needs to be you, and you need to take that first step and move forward.
Yeah, I love that. I'd love to know, Matt, if you're like you spent so much time having social, making a video a day, or now three a day, three pieces of
Yeah.
content a day, being your one thing. Has that changed or evolved since then, or is that still the one thing today? Because your
That's
company's
still
grown substantially.
Yeah. So my role in my company has changed from doing the work to working on the business mostly,
Mhm.
and also coming up with SEO strategies to better service our clients. Right. So I can come up with an idea now and be like, hey, 5, 10 people on my team, start rolling this out with some clients. Let's start testing this and see if it works. If it catches, then we'll start doing this for more clients. And I'm running multiple versions of that test or tests, or different ideas. And when something hits, it's like, cool, we're going to roll that out. So we have more of that. But my one thing, if I wake up in the morning before I go to bed, if I'm like, if I did one thing today and I created a video and posted on social media, then today was for sure like that. It was a good business day. Like
I love that.
that was work.
I love that.
Except like now, like, so sorry, last August, my wife and I went to Italy. We eloped and got married. And
Amazing.
even while we were
Congratulations.
there, thank you. I was posting videos from Italy. Like I tried to record a couple in advance, and then like I ended up not having time to record that many. But even like on our wedding day, she was upstairs at the hotel getting ready, and I'm standing there by myself. Like we eloped, nobody else came. Like just her and I and a photographer. That was it. Um, and I'm downstairs and I'm like talking to the photographer. I'm like, I'm just gonna step outside for a second, record a quick reel and or a quick video, and then I'll be back in like 5 minutes. And the video is literally being like, it's me in my like full tux and everything. And I just say, hey guys, it's my wedding day, but I just wanted to pop in real quick and give you an SEO tip about whatever. And I pretend to start getting into it. Then I'm like, nah, I'm just joking. I'm going to get married. See you guys later.
I
Like,
love that though.
right. So it just it doesn't have to be a big thing. They're all just small things that add up. And now I'm very much more, and I wouldn't be doing this if my wife wasn't okay with it, like on our like wedding elopement trip.
Well, you didn't miss
Um,
it, right? She was getting
no,
ready. She didn't miss
she
anything.
was getting ready. Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. um, so it's something I do every day, and it on the weekends as well. Like I don't film and pre-record anything unless I did like a talk in person where I'm like, oh, I can clip that together and there's like a really good 10-second or 30-second part from that like 2 hour conversation. I'm like, I will take that and I will put that out when I can't come up with an idea that day.
Well, Matt, I can tell you you're inspiring me because I think a lot of people get in their heads about like, well, I'm not dressed and I don't look the part and I didn't do my makeup or hair today or whatever your
Yeah.
thing is, right? And I certainly have let that get in the way of me posting in the past. And this is just a reminder that your one thing's your one thing. And you can make up all the excuses in the world to get off of your one thing, but your one thing is still your one thing. And what I
Yeah.
love especially is there's as a coach inside the one thing, we probably see more than anything one of the hardest evolutions that Jay and I have talked about in depth on past podcasts. One of the hardest evolutions that we see is when someone does the one thing that they're supposed to do and then hits the big goal that they have, and then they stop. And we see that all the time. They stop
Yep.
doing the thing that made them successful. And then it all kind of comes crumbling down around them. And they pick their heads up and say, what happened? I'm like, well, you stopped doing the thing that made you so successful in the first place. So I love to
Yep.
hear that you're very clear that one thing hasn't changed and you're still doing it consistently, no matter what, no matter what, no matter what.
Yeah. I mean, right now I'm at like 100, almost 190,000 followers, like on Instagram alone, which is
Amazing.
blows my mind. I never in a million years would have thought that could be a possibility. But I'm like, I'm setting my goals higher now because I've achieved a goal. Like my initial goal was I just want to have more followers than any other marketing agency in my city. And there's maybe like 20 of them. And I'm like, cool, this one person has like 5,000 or 7,000 followers. I'm like, I just need to beat them. And then I beat them 6 months in when that one video or those two videos started blowing up. And I was like, okay, let's go for 50. And then that happened like a month later. And I was like, let's go for 100. And now I'm like, I need to get to 1 million followers. I don't have a time frame on it, but it's the next step. It's the next step, next step. Like as soon as you stop looking forward, you're not moving forward.
Yeah. Well, that's the example, the hockey stick growth that we talk about in the one thing so much, right?
Yeah.
You're on the upward trajectory of that hockey stick. Maybe the top or beginning of the top of your hockey stick is that million plus, but you're on
Yeah.
you did the right thing for so long, which probably felt like you weren't moving at all, but really you're just beginning the hockey stick and you're beginning to have that upward curve forward. I would feel like I
Absolutely.
would be failing our listeners if I didn't ask you like give me maybe a top SEO tip and a top social media tip. Like your best of the best,
Okay.
keys to the kingdom, secret that'll just be between you, me, and the millions of people who follow this.
Oh my God, that's so much pressure. Okay, so when we're talking about SEO, search engine optimization, also known as showing up higher on Google, see, you have to break it down into the easiest to understand terms. So when we're talking about SEO, the number one thing is you can't just rank number one for no reason. You have to provide value to the person because even if you're ranking number one on Google or Bing or whatever search engine, somebody comes to your page and they're like, what is this crap? Like, what is this information? It's not what I'm looking for. They will go to the next link. And if that link doesn't have it, they go to the next link. And that signals to search engines, hey, we should rank, the number 3 or the number 10 guy all the way at the top because people keep leaving number 1, 2, and 3 and going to 10. So that also impacts your rankings. But it's really just creating helpful content, whether that's a blog post, whether it's on a service page. And when I say service page, like say you're a dentist and you have a teeth whitening page, like talk about the procedure, I don't know, what you go through in that situation. Do you use something different than other dentists, right? If you're an HVAC company and you do like duct cleaning, I don't know, just random stuff. If you do that, like talk about why people should get that. Talk about what your pricing is, and that's a big thing too. A lot of people don't talk about pricing, right? If somebody's like, I need to replace my furnace, how much is it going to cost me? And then somebody gets to a website and says, it depends. That's not very helpful, is it? Right? It's like it could range between, if you get this furnace or your house is this big, it'll cost you 10 grand, 15, 20, 25, whatever, all the way to, whatever, however much it comes to. But
Right.
so in terms of SEO, it's actually just creating that helpful content and doing it consistently, right? If you can write one blog post a week, that's 52 blog posts a year. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, blog posts are dead. But if you search anything on Google, you're probably landing on a blog post that is helping you find the information that you're looking for.
Totally.
Um, and the last thing I'll say about it is every single blog post, every single page on your website is a door to your business. The more doors you have to your business, the more business you will inevitably get. So more doors, more better, more gooder,
More
right?
gooder.
That's how we say it, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah,
that's
up here in
that's the
Canada.
line from today. Do this
More
more
gooder.
gooder. I
Yeah.
and I love that, because what you're talking about is just more at bats, right? I think in any business, it doesn't matter which business you're running, you're just looking for more at bats. To your example earlier, when a professional baseball player hits a grand slam, that's not their first time at bat. They've
Yeah.
swung that bat hundreds of millions of times, I'm sure, at
Yeah.
that point. And so this is about getting in front of people enough for them to click, I want to learn more about working with this person. Love that. Okay, so that's your
Absolutely.
SEO tip. What's your social
SEO
tip?
tip. Social tip is just start doing it. That's like that. It sounds so simple, and it is simple, but how many people actually do it? Um, okay, that's a little bit not enough of a tip. So, um, what algorithms actually care about, and the algorithm doesn't care about your profile or anybody's profile specifically. There's none of this shadow banning stuff unless you're spamming people. Um, if you think the algorithm's like, oh, like let's not promote my videos or promote their videos or whatever, it's just because your content sucks. And I've told people that before and they get offended. And I'm like, you're what? Nobody's watching it because it's not good. And they're like, what do you mean? And I show them a video. They're like, your video is no different than my video. And I'm like, no, I have a hook at the start of my video that keeps people watching. And if you look at the watch time on any video, like all the platforms have these analytics for free for you. If you look at the watch time and you're hitting 50% of the total length of the video, if people are on average watching at least 50%, then the algorithm's going to start pushing that past your followers. So even if you don't have any followers or you have 100 followers, that is kind of the landmark or the mark to hit, 50% watch time, and the engagement doesn't really matter. I have a video right now like doing extremely well. I think it has almost 1 million views of my wife like scolding me in the car, telling me how to get more views on Instagram. And this is all stuff that we talked about, and people are like, she's so mean. Why is she being so mean to you? And like, we're obviously joking around. But like it has terrible engagement, like not that many comments, not that many likes, but people are watching it for like 20, 30 seconds to be like, what happens? What are they talking about? Like, is he going to get punched in the mouth? Like, what's going on? And so it really is like watch time. Keep people on the platform for as long as possible and start posting. Just start doing it. Like, if you're listening to this right now and you're considering, I want to start posting on social media, take out your phone,
Just
film
do
a
it.
video, post it, and you know what? Tag me in it, like at heytony.agency, and I will like it. I will watch it, and if you're nice, I will give you some feedback. I may be regretting this because I don't know how many people are
I
going to do
was
that,
just
but
about to say, be careful what you wish for. I'm
listen, it can't hurt
henceforth
the
tagging
algorithm.
you in all
Yeah,
of my videos, Matt. Like, Matt, what about this one? Do you like this one? Give me
absolutely.
feedback on this one. You mentioned a couple times, and thank you for sharing that, because I think that is a little bit counterintuitive to what a lot of people expect. I think a lot of people think great engagement means I'm getting likes and comments. And I've heard from
Yeah.
multiple people who specialize with social media that's not actually what we're looking for. And what we're looking for is views and how long they've watched. So, but you've mentioned a couple times this idea of a hook. Can you expand on what that means? Like, if someone wants to create a great hook, how would they go about doing that?
So a hook that's worked for me. I don't know if this is a great hook, but a hook that's worked for me a lot is, and I'm going to start. Hold on, I need to figure out how I'm going to say this and separate it out so people know when the hook starts. The hook's going to start the next thing that I say. If you want to show up higher on Google, but you have no time or money, and you've worked with other agencies in the past, or you worked with an agency in the past, or another hook could be if you're frustrated with your agency. No, that's a terrible hook. Oh my God, I'm trying to make up hooks on the spot. Another hook could be don't tell Google I told you this, but if you want to show up higher in their search results, do this, right?
Love that.
Um, just like there's so many different hooks that you can do. All and like listen, SEO is not a huge topic. Like there's a very limited amount of things that I can actually talk about. So coming up with a different angle for it is huge.
Yeah. Well,
Like
it
coming
sounds
up with a
like
different hook.
and it sounds like you have to be a bit repetitive in the content, which is okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like, and also, I thank you for saying that because I didn't want to say it in a way that didn't come out great. But like SEO is not the most interesting, most
No.
exciting thing in the
Oh my
world,
God.
and yet you've
It's
built this
not.
huge following from it. I'm like, if you can do that with SEO, which is potentially not something that everybody is looking up and saying, I want to learn more about that, or I even care about that, then
Yeah.
there are tons of industries out there where people would be very interested in learning more about it. I always think of things like that, or I read a great book around building a YouTube following a couple of years ago, and there was a great example of someone in there who built a huge YouTube following, like a multi-million-dollar YouTube empire about
Yep.
knitting.
Yeah.
Just not the most interesting thing in the world, but if you do it consistently, then it creates the engagement and the following.
Absolutely it does.
Matt, at the end of this podcast, we always ask everyone, what is the one thing? So I kind of got three because I wanted to know your one thing
Yeah.
for SEO and for social. So I cheated a little bit, but I'm still going to
Yeah.
ask you, what's the one thing that you would want listeners to take away from this conversation today?
Oh my God, just start. Just make time every single day. If you only have half an hour, and I was going to say if you only have 5 minutes, you need more than 5 minutes to do your one thing. If it's actually means, if your goal means something to you, like spend more time on it, but find half an hour. Like I was spending 4 hours a day doing my one thing. I still, not quite 4 hours now, but spend time every day doing it. Make it a habit. Don't make it something like, oh, I got to do my one thing today. Like do something that you like as your one thing.
I love that. And Matt, where can everybody find you? Where can we follow this social media empire? Where can we help you get to 1 million?
I'll never tell. No, I'm I'm just joking.
I was
Instagram,
literally
I think
writing it
it's
down. I was like, is it at
yeah,
I'll never tell?
yeah. At I'll never tell. No, it's at heytony.agency on Instagram, and if you just look up Matt Diamante on TikTok, it'll show up. I actually don't know my handle on TikTok, although I should. Or just heytony.ca if you want to look at blog posts and like what SEO looks like, on a website.
Well, we'll make sure that we tag you and everything in the comments and in the show notes. And I want to thank you so much for this. I can tell you personally, I've learned a ton today. I know that our listeners are going to learn a lot from you today too. I'm excited to follow you and learn from you. And I can tell you that you have absolutely inspired me today. And I'll tell you that my biggest takeaway from all of this, and I'll give Matt a one thing for all of our listeners to recognize, is that when you do the one thing that makes you successful, please don't stop doing the one thing that made you successful. Please keep
I
doing
love
that
that.
one thing. Thank you
That
so
is
much for being
probably
here.
that's so good. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
All right, we'll see everybody next time.